Welcome to Sealed Live. I'm Harvey Stanley, Director of Private Sales here at RM Sotheby's. You join us from our stand at Retromobile here in Paris, and I'm joined by my guests, Anders Bildt, car specialist from Scandinavia here at RM Sotheby's, and James Haythwaite, Director at IQ EQ. Well guys, we're here with 17 minutes to go before we close the sealed sale of Ferrari 355 GTS. Not any Ferrari 355 GTS. Delivered new in April 1996 to Michael Schumacher, who, if you don't know, is a 7-time Formula One world champion, 5 of those with Ferrari.
Whoosh, 7 times, really?
Yeah, that's me.
Anders, were you a Formula One fan in the mid to late 90s?
I was very much so. I must confess I don't follow Formula One quite as much as I used to any longer, but back then it was every race. I was in front of the screen, every race.
And yourself, James?
Yeah, you just weren't able to miss a race. You had to watch it. It
Yeah.
was just like intoxicating. It was brilliant. It was lovely to see, and Ferrari at that time was at its peak.
And I think now we currently, with Lewis Hamilton joining Ferrari, obviously yet to have his first race, it's obvious even today, but even more so maybe, that how special it is when somebody drives for Ferrari. Schumacher had won his 2 titles at Benetton already. He signed for Ferrari in the winter of '95.
Yep.
He had his first race in March '96. He had his 4th race for Ferrari at the Nürburgring in April, 28th of April 1996. 2 days later, he took delivery of his
This
355.
In this fantastic colour.
So exactly. So Tour de France blue was the more common dark blue for the
Yep.
355. This car is one of, I think it's 8 cars in this spec in Le Mans blue,
Le Mans blue is
which
fabulous.
is, I'm not sure if you can see it at home on the screens, but I'm sure you guys will attest it's a more vibrant, maybe
It is,
a
definitely.
little bit more purple to it.
Definitely.
It's deeper in some way, if that makes any sense. It's and then I think also worth mentioning. I mean, we can talk about the Le Mans blue paint, and rightfully so, because it's stunning. But the interior as well, it offsets it beautifully with that very, very light interior. I think it makes the blue even more crisp.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes this such an exciting proposition tonight. Michael Schumacher didn't just own one Ferrari. He wanted to take delivery of an F50 a little later, and then onwards he helped develop the car. So he was a leading force behind the development of the Enzo, the 430 Scuderia, the FXX. So we're not saying this is Michael Schumacher's only Ferrari.
Absolutely
It might
not.
have been his first Ferrari as a Formula One driver.
Could well have been.
Well, I can't imagine he would have had he might have had a Ferrari privately before. I don't know that, but it would have been his first Ferrari while he was a Ferrari driver.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think what makes it exciting for the bidders and the viewers at home is an F50 is a wonderful car, and I'd love to own Michael Schumacher's F50. I'd love to own Michael Schumacher's Enzo.
I wouldn't buy any F50, to be fair.
Quite fair.
But at this sort of level, at this sort of price point, not only is the 355 significantly more affordable than those cars, it's also significantly more drivable.
Yep.
So how
Yeah.
cool is it? You could not only could you own Schumacher's 355, it's 47,000 kilometers. You could also regularly drive the car.
You can
And the
drive it,
current
yeah.
owner, the vendor who's with us here in the crowd tonight, he's driven 20,000 kilometers in the car.
Yeah.
He bought it from an auction, funnily enough, in Monaco, where Michael took delivery, and he's driven 20,000 kilometers in the car.
Massive smile on
enjoyed
his
it.
face the
Yeah.
whole time. I'm absolutely sure.
And that is really. I agree with you. It's a big part of the charm of this car because. Sure, it'll be a mantelpiece for whoever owns it next. Of course it will. But it's a mantelpiece that you can also take out on a sunny, beautiful day, Sunday, and have fun with it. You're obviously not going to pile on a ton of miles, but if you add 1,000 miles every summer, it's not going to
It doesn't matter,
devalue for
it doesn't
that. You
matter.
can do that. If it had done only 8,000 kilometers, you wouldn't do it, would
Yeah,
you?
exactly.
You would put it away and cotton bud it. But with this mileage, you can actually still drive it. It is just a car, so to say.
Exactly. The car
Yeah,
owner
but
was-
with fantastic provenance.
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
it's just in this double whammy. And if, as long as it's insured, I've always been on mantras. Always drive your cars,
Yes.
and just don't rattler up in Gothenburg.
I agree.
Just because you'd want to be able to experience and enjoy the car.
You want to be behind the steering wheel feeling like Michael Schumacher.
Well, quite right.
We've all dreamt of doing that in his Formula One cars, and us common people won't be able to do that. But you can get a little bit. You can get a little bit of that here. He drove that car. He sat in that seat. He held that steering wheel, and you can do the same. Take it down a nice twisty road, and in your dreams, you're Michael Schumacher for a short bit.
Yeah, but on top of that, it's the 355. One of the loveliest driving Ferraris you can get.
Agreed.
If you ask a lot of people, on their bucket list of a Ferrari 355 is definitely going to be
even
up
if
there.
it wasn't owned by Schumacher, it would still be
we'd still
fabulous car.
we'd still be going. I'd like that.
I love 355s. One of the last like truly analog Ferraris, I think, at least in my opinion.
Manual box, obviously.
Manual box.
Scallops, and this has been developed and but everybody says 355 is a lot better car than.
I think the suspension is really.
We're back live, so sorry about
Excellent.
that slight technical issue. So we were just talking about how, James, you lusted after a 348 in your youth.
I did. I was 19 when the 348s came out. I was living in France that year, in Annecy, and it was just, and the press was everywhere. The new 348s were coming out. It was a mini Testarossa. And still to this day, and I know people say 348, it's not as good as the 355. They might be right, but to me, I think both cars are fabulous. I mean,
They are. I mean, I've got one of my good mates in Denmark drives a 348, and they are fabulous.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I mean, and I don't knock the 348 in any way. The development they made from the 348 to the 355, yes, it is very much based on a 348, and it's underneath. You could argue it's largely the same car. But the driving experience is really cool, especially the suspension setup. I think they really nailed it with the 355. The suspension was probably, to me, the suspension is maybe the biggest letdown on the 348, where the handling on the 355 is so much nicer. It's more crisp.
Yeah. And just by the time this one came out.
Well, as we were saying earlier, the current owner, having covered 20,000 kilometres in the car, he loves it. It's enjoyable. He's had it 15, 20 years. He told me the other day that one of his highlights of owning the car is he managed to take it to a meet or an event where who was there but Michael Schumacher. So we had the opportunity not only to meet Michael, and Michael remembered the car.
Yep.
They had a talk around the car, and if you pull the driver's seat forward, Michael signed the back of the seat.
Did he really?
Somebody spotted that earlier and said, "Oh, so when Michael owned it, he signed it." No, he didn't sign his own car.
No.
It was in the current owner's ownership that he was able to meet Michael,
And
show
have
him the
him
car.
sign it.
Michael, as you would always hope, any previous owner would have fond memories of the car.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, and as we discussed earlier, his first car, likely the first car Ferrari that he had while he was driving for the team.
And with special specs like this, I mean, he would remember. Well, and he did remember it and signed it like you said. That's pretty cool. That is pretty
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. As we were saying earlier, Le Mans Blue, which is that rarer shade of blue. The 355 was super popular. I remember first driving a 355 when I was lucky. I was super young, and there's something you'll never forget about the first time you drive a Ferrari that has an open-gated manual gearbox, like a rifle bolt, clickety.
It's very distinctive, isn't it?
Exactly. So they did come with an F1 gearbox, and strangely, production was about 50-50. The F1 gearbox was obviously new technology.
Yeah.
Everybody embraces new tech when it comes. It's only with clarity of hindsight that you think, well, actually, manual's what you want. But this car is manual. You were saying earlier that the F1 didn't.
The F1 came in '97, didn't it?
Yeah.
The F1, it wasn't on the 355 from start of production.
Yeah.
So that explains also why this one is manual.
Yeah.
Because we had a chat beforehand, where you rightly said
It makes sense.
You would have thought that Schumacher went for the latest technology, but actually the F1 box wasn't launched yet at the time where this car was produced. So he ended up with the manual, which I think today we can only be happy of because it's, to me anyway, it's way cooler manual than it is with the F1 box.
Yeah, exactly.
And then and the color, the specs, everything is just a fabulous thing. Really cool toy.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't mind one with an F1 box.
Oh no,
but,
no.
But with the click clack, it's pretty cool. It's
As
up
you
there,
said,
isn't
the
it?
first
It's up
time you
there.
drive one, it's special, isn't it?
Yeah.
Of course, and three body variants. So the GTB, which is the traditional Berliner hard top.
Yeah.
The Spider, which is the soft top convertible version, and then you have the GTS, which clearly is an example of, which is a Targa. I always like the idea of a GTS because you still have, with the roof on, they look just like a GTB, and unlike the fabric roof, taking the roof off is complete doddle. You know, I've always thought Targas were a great idea. They seem to have died out now, but I've always thought Targa was such a great idea.
This is a perfect compromise, isn't it?
I think so.
We were discussing earlier. It's got air conditioning. It's got a Targa roof. You know, it's a perfect car for driving.
Yeah.
It's a classic car, but it's also got lots of modern creature comforts which we all come to like and enjoy nowadays. But it's not overly teched up either.
Yeah, it's power steering, it's air conditioning, it's ABS. They don't have traction control.
Traction control.
But they're just a great thing.
And that's what I mean about the analog. You know, there's not many aids in there.
No.
Which
and it feels like a light car.
Yes.
You know, you follow a 355 with a 360, it suddenly feels
much
heavy.
more cumbersome.
A 430 is heavy, a 458 is big, a 488 is turbo. It's a big,
yeah.
heavy
But naturally
car.
aspirated manual box.
It's a modern Dino, really.
Yes.
It's,
While we've been nattering away, gents, there's been a flurry of bidding.
Has there?
On our online sealed sale here. So I don't think I'm giving too much away to say that the number one bidder has been sat there now for something like 3/4 of an hour. But right below him in second, third, fourth, fifth, there's been a fair bit of action. So in the last hour, we've seen those places change hands a little bit. For those of you that don't know how the sealed platform works, by sealed we mean private. So when you bid on this online auction, of course you know what you've bid, but you don't know at all what anybody else has bid. So on my screen here and on your bidder screen as a bidder, you'll only see where you sit in the leaderboard. So if you open your bidding at, let's say, X, you might end up second or first in the leaderboard initially. As others bid around you, they'll slowly bump you down as they bid above you down the leaderboard, till eventually you might find yourself at, say, 5th or 6th, and you might take that as an indication to bid again before the timer runs out. Now on this auction, we've got 6 minutes and 2 seconds left to run.
But you won't know what they've bid above you, will you? You'll only know that you're, for example, I'm 4th place. I don't know how high I need to bid to get first again.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is interesting.
So the joy of it is it's completely private. So the seller,
Yes.
the seller will know what the car sold for clearly. RM will know what the car sold for, and the winning buyer will know, and nobody else.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm sure you have the numbers better than I do, Harvey. But I think I heard that we have about, was it 5 or 6 times as many bidders on this as we've ever had before on Seal?
We've got close to 50 registered bidders for this car, which is not only is that
Okay, so not ever, but then not
only is that more bidders than we'd ever normally have on a Seal, but
Yeah.
it's multiples more than we would
Yes.
ever normally have on any.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I'm
it's
just
because
hearing now
it's
in my ear that it's actually over 60 bidders now.
Over 60 bidders.
Yeah.
because this car is so iconic. As I
And it's
mentioned,
unrepeatable, James.
yeah, as I mentioned to you yesterday, I had a client sort of came up to me, I'd love that car. How do I do it? Because and they are a younger generation client, and they was I'd love to own the car.
Yeah.
I mean,
Love to.
imagine if, let's say you're a collector. Imagine you have one of Schumacher's Formula One cars at home. Doesn't even have to be a season-winning car or anything, championship car. But let's say you have one sitting at home. Putting that next to it.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. Now, James.
And you can use it.
Yeah.
Now, James, we're here at Retromobile. I've been with you here at Retromobile many times before.
Great. Bad luck.
How would you rank this in one of your editions of the show? To me, it's been across the board a great show.
It's been a great show. I've been here since Tuesday. I was meant to leave yesterday, but I've decided to stay along because there's so many other attractions. And you've got other people sort of coming here. This is a popular show.
Producer-
Looking around us now, it's been like this all day.
Producer Johnny and I took a wander around earlier, and we're going to cut to that now and show the viewers at home what they're missing out on by not being here at Retromobile with us. So here we are in the main hall of Retromobile, Pavilion 1 at the Porte de Versailles Expo. So this is sort of the central aisle. So for those that haven't been, Retromobile is a huge fair here in Paris. It's full of car dealers, but also everything associated with the joy of liking collectible cars. So Le Mans Classic and Peter Auto, who organise the race series around Europe, and every 2 years Le Mans Classic. This is a Le Mans Classic year, so they've got a Ferrari 512S here, showcasing Le Mans Classic. Behind me here is the Richard Mille stand. Richard Mille, I think they've been having a stand here for 2 or 3 years. Because Richard Mille is a sponsor of Ferrari, every year they have a wonderful display of cars. And then inside their booth, they've got VIPs and Richard Mille watch owners. Joe Macari's stand here, based in London. Some more great cars, MC12, a beautiful right-hand drive Dino. We have one for sale too. As well as McLaren Formula One car and a short-tail F1 GTR. We're now sort of in the center of the main concours here in Retromobile, and we've got two more UK dealers, Fiskins in London, Gerardo, who are based up in Oxfordshire, and they've brought along the best of their current stock, the best of their current inventory to offer to the people here. And the visitors here, of course, we have a lot of French here. We're in Paris, but we've got a lot of guys here over from America. We've got a ton of British people and people from all across Europe. No doubt most of those guys, or rather a lot of those guys, have come to see our auction too. So our auction was over 2 days, Tuesday and Wednesday, and the show lasts Tuesday evening and then it closes on Sunday night. So more cars here. This is Ascot. He's a great dealer in France, specializing in Le Mans era, Le Mans type racing cars. So he's got some cool stuff on here. A Riley & Scott LMP1 car from around 05. Behind that is a V8 Vantage, similar to the car we sold in our London auction. And then a Silk Cut Group C Jag, Zytec Creation. So some really cool stuff, and as you can see, great variety. Despite the name Retromobile, the show used to be for old cars, so if you'd come here 10 years ago, you'd have seen an awful lot of 50s and 60s cars. But with the way the market has progressed, you've now got a lot more modern stuff here. So I saw over there an F12 TDF, SP2 Monzas, Veyrons, Chirons, all sorts really. As you move over here, Gerardo's got he's gone, for the last couple of years, Max has gone for an all Ferrari stand. So here he's got a 375 Plus. He's got Gerhard Berger's F187, which is the most successful. Welcome back to us here, Anders, James and I, here on our stand at Rétromobile Paris. We are now counting down the last final minutes of this 355 sealed auction. Bidder 506, who'd been live winning this auction for nearly an hour, has just been outbid.
Has he?
So we're down to under a minute. To be clear for those bidding how it works, the timer ticks down to 0, and the name of the game is to be top of that leaderboard when the timer runs out. However, if in the death somebody in the top half of that leaderboard, or the top section of that leaderboard, places a new bid or a new bid is registered, then that extends the time by a further minute.
If it's a new high bid, right?
It's not a new high bid, it's in the top 5.
Any bid within the top 5 extends it by 90 seconds.
So the guy could be 20, it could be a new bidder. If he enters the elite top 5,
yes,
it extends the auction for everybody. And the reason clearly we do that is to stop somebody hanging on in at the last minute.
And as you remember it in the old days in eBay.
Yes.
Exactly. Back in the day, eBay would see nothing and then suddenly your internet would crash and you wouldn't be able to buy the thing you wanted to buy.
Exactly.
Yeah. So here we are. We've had bidding. We've had pretty good bidding. We had within an hour of opening our auction, pretty much when the show opened on Tuesday. Within an hour, we'd well exceeded the sort of the world record at auction for a 355.
Yeah, well, quite rightly.
Yeah, quite right.
Yeah,
well, because it's not just a 355.
It's not just a 355, but on top of that, it's got all the other bits you love about it.
Yes.
About the 355, and then it's got the Schumacher effect.
Yeah, fantastic. So we're now into the last 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
We had a new bidder, bidder 565. The nature of our platform is the bidding's completely anonymous. Bidder 565 put in a great bid just now, which has put himself on the leaderboard. And he was about to time out, and somebody else has come in and is in second place, joint second place.
90 seconds more then.
Joint second place, so we've auto-extended. We're now down to 1 minute and 15 seconds.
But we were discussing earlier, Schumacher lived in Monaco at the time. This car was serviced in Monaco when it was new.
That's right.
And you know, for a few years, it was just, you know, it was clearly kept at his house.
I met a guy on the stand a couple of days back who came on and recalls he was the truck driver. So he picked the car up from Maranello, from the factory. He had to drive it to Cologne, where they stamped up the service book here at the dealer in Cologne.
Yeah.
30th of April 1996, as we said, 2 days after Schumacher's 4th ever race for Scuderia. Michael Schumacher, care of Willy Weber management, famously Schumacher's manager.
Yeah.
And once the book had been stamped in Germany, We drove it down to Monaco, gave the keys to Michael. Karina made the truck driver a cup of tea. Had a cup of tea, Michael drove the car, came back, gave him a hug, and would go on then to own the car for at least a couple of years. And we know not only have we had confirmation from Ferrari Maranello that it was Michael's car, we've also had confirmation from Cavallari or Monaco Motors that they serviced and maintained the car
and I
for
think
Michael.
all of this is really important as well, because you do get these, some important race drivers, Senna or Schumacher or whoever, and they've borrowed a mate's car and driven it, and they've been seen in it, and then, it's whoever, it's Senna's car or whatever, and it maybe, sometimes it wasn't. But in this case, Ferrari have confirmed this car was owned by Schumacher, and you have confirmation from Ferrari themselves.
And not just for 2 seconds.
No.
I mean, a couple of services in the.
It wasn't a loaner. It wasn't, hey, just have this car, Michael. It was
because he wouldn't bother. He wouldn't bother getting it serviced if it wasn't his car.
Exactly that.
Yeah, and weather.
Of course. Yeah. And best of all, whenever you have cars like this with famous ownership, he's photographed in the car.
Yes.
And that makes such a difference.
It does. I think there's a color photo as well where you can confirm the color and everything as well. So it really is cool, and the documentation is all in place. It's not just halfway there.
It's all
my phone.
Yeah.
But with the excitement, the phone's falling off the table. We're down to the last 25 seconds now.
25 seconds.
We've had another flurry of interest. The top bidder has placed his bid 4 minutes ago, so you see how much action there is at the end of the auction. It's not just in the second and third place. That new bidder has gone highest in there, bidder 565. He placed his bid 4 minutes ago. We're now into 9, 8, 7, 6, 5.
Ooh, it's getting
not
close.
long left. If you're going to bid right now. And we've timed out there, and the lot has closed. So that is by some margin a new world record at auction for a Ferrari 355.
Congratulations.
Now, it's not a live auction. We don't have Sholto here, luckily, banging his hammer down. But he's opened his 8th bottle of champagne of the day. Fantastic. Did you enjoy that, guys?
It was excellent.
It is.
Excellent.
But we were discussing when you were doing the video of Retro. It's a car which is almost achievable by people with big wallets, but not. You don't have to have.
It's not an F50.
It's not an F50.
It's not the billionaire's playground.
It's not a 250 LM. It's a fantastic machine, and I'm not surprised that there's so much interest in the car because we'd all like it.
And now we've been a tiny little piece of that whole story. That's an
James, is this your first introduction of being a bit more involved in our sealed platform?
It is. It's a great way to gain interest, and as I say, the broadness that, as I say, a client who was not expecting to have any interest in the car contacted me yesterday. Said, "I really like to have that car."
Yeah. For us, it's really important that sealed takes the best elements of the auction, the competitive auction environment, and the best elements of private sales. Now, in a nutshell, clearly that's the discretion of private sales. If you're buying a car, you don't necessarily want everybody to know what you paid for it. Maybe you might like to think you've bought it well, and you might be able to sell it on in a year's time for a profit. Well, if everybody knows what you paid for it at auction, it's going to be very difficult to do that.
Yep.
Perhaps the seller doesn't want everyone knowing how much money he's just received for the sale of his car, and it's a great way for us to do that. However, there are certain elements where you need to go down a price discovery route. Now, I know the seller had a number of offers on the car around a certain level, which would already have been a world record. But he needed to know that as he stands here now, and he is about to tuck into some more champagne, he needs to know that he's got the best possible result that he can have. And the only way to do that sometimes is by having this price discovery, this competitive element. He knows
being public about it. A private sale, a totally private sale, is of course you have a limited number of people who are involved with it. But in this format, we do bring it out to everybody. Anybody who wants to be involved can be involved. And I think that's it. You're right. You strike a nice balance with it, don't you?
Yeah. Now we've got 2 more cars on the stand here that are in our sealed platform. So I'll just talk you through one of those now, which is behind you, gentlemen. It's the quite awe-inspiring Zonda Tricolor. Now, for those of you that don't know, a Tricolor is the ultimate iteration of the Pagani Zonda. The Zonda became the C12S, became the F Club Sport, became the Cinque, and eventually became the Tricolor. They only made 3 Tricolors, they're all coupes. and they're all in this identical specification of exposed black and blue carbon fibre, the blue stripe, gold wheels, and that tricolor stripe up the front there. As a pilot, you'll know, Anders, is the insignia of the Italian Red Arrows, basically.
Yes.
The Italian elite special flying team it carries the tricolor.
Requires quite a pilot to drive that too.
Well, quite. So it's a 7.3 litre V12, the same engine as all Zondas have.
Yeah.
And this car
Well,
is
all newer Zondas.
all newer Zondas.
The
and
early
this
ones
is-
had smaller.
Correct. This is the only of the three tricolors that's in Europe. One of the cars is in Asia, one of the cars is in America, and this car, German registered, European taxes paid, is not our next sealed. Our next sealed is the Singer DLS, but is bidding closing on our sealed platform on the 27th of February. So just under a month's time. But it's not the only thing on our stand. So I gave producer Johnny a walk around our stand the other day when it was a little less busy and a little less champagne. So we're going to cut to that now. So why don't you come and have a little tour of our stand here. 5 cars, 5 of the best cars offered from sealed and private sales. So the first car you come across is this stunning 918 Weissach Spider. It's the only car finished in, unfortunately it doesn't have a more glamorous name than light green, but it's a paint to sample colour, and it's the only car finished in this colour. It was supplied new to a French owner, one and only owner. The car still belongs to the original owner. And as mentioned, it's a full Weissach pack example. However, with the very rare, and I think rather cool exception, that the first owner decided to keep the standard and distinctive unique 918 wheels with this unique design. The Weissach pack included lots of carbon. There's carbon rear diffuser, carbon here, carbon roof, and a pillar in carbon, which overall reduces the weight of the 918 by something like 200 kilos, something quite remarkable. So this car has done less than 500 kilometers, so it's still virtually a new car, one owner from new, French supplied, one of one color. It's a completely unrepeatable example of the 918. Then over here's the 355, but I think we've spoken a fair bit about the 355 already. The centerpiece of our stand, and probably the most photographed car in all of Paris this week, let alone in Retromobile, is this. It's a Zonda tricolor. Now they only made 3 tricolors, and this is the second of the 3. The other 2 cars are in America and in Singapore, so it's the only Zonda tricolor in Europe. And moving over here, we've got the Ferrari Monza SP2. Now I'm sure most of you will already know this, but when Ferrari launched their Icona series, they launched it with the Monza. You could have an SP1, which had just 1 seat. This was blanked off, no space for a passenger, just a 1-seat car. And the SP2 has 2 seats. Now, naturally, most people think they have lots of friends, and therefore an SP2, it was always the more desirable car. They made a few more SP2s than they did SP1s. The really cool thing about this car is it's been part of Ferrari's tailor-made program. So it's unique. It's one of one. It's built as a tribute to a 250 Testarossa, chassis number 0742, if you want to be super precise, which was a famous Scandinavian racer that raced in Finland and across Scandinavia, and that's where this wonderful blue and white livery comes from, and I think it looks absolutely fabulous on a modern car. Behind it over here is the Singer DLS. This is another one of our sealed offering cars, so that's in a sealed cell, much like the 355, much like the Zonda, whereas the SP2 Monza and the 918 are private sales, which means they're available immediately. You can come on the stand tomorrow, make me an offer, and if it's good enough, you could be going home with either this car or the 918 this week. So we're back on air, we're opening up the champagne, as we've said, a new world record with our latest sealed sale for this ex-Michael Schumacher 355. Anders, here's one for you.
Fabulous.
And James, there's one coming up for you. Now James,
Lovely.
tell us a little bit about yourself. You're a director at IQ-EQ, and we've done deals for many years, but tell us a little bit more about what you do.
Yeah, Harvey, that's right. You and I have known each other for a long time, and indeed I've known RM Sotheby's for a long time when I knew it was an RM. Basically, IQ-EQ is a fiduciary company. I'm based in Jersey, and but we're in 26 jurisdictions. But we are mainly sort of fund administration and corporate work. But we do have a luxury asset division, of which I head up the collector car piece. And so what I do is I'm not a broker because we've got very good brokers who we can use. So I'm an independent person who can sort of guide people through the asset class. So I help them with trying to assess what I think would be a realistic price for a car. Sort of holding their hand with the asset class, helping them assess what the correct price is, making sure it's inspected, making sure we got the right contract in place, because we've often seen people say, yeah, handshake is fine, but actual fact, the car's not matching. All the cars have got.
So you came to see me the other day, and you were with a mutual client of ours.
Yes.
And he'd purchased a particular four-wheeled asset, which had achieved an accolade of some sort, and you were straight with him, helping him make sure that the contract protected him, that the company that were currently using the asset were going to make sure that he got exactly what was owed to him in the contract, which is something that I think most, look, a lot of our clients, not only are they busy, but they might not be right into the weeds of a contract. And I guess that's one of the areas where you can add massive benefit.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I remember a situation when I was in the US a few years ago. I'm based in Jersey in the Channel Islands, but I was in the US a few years ago, and actually a client that you know very, very well as well. He came up to me and said, "Oh, I've just seen this fantastic car." I won't name the car, but fantastic car on the lawn in Miller Island. It wasn't for sale, but he said, "I've agreed to buy it. I'm loving it because it's got these special brakes with the car. I'm loving the original colours of the cars, and I just think it's fantastic." And what actually happened? And then he said, "Oh, and I've shaken his hand, and I've agreed to pay him a lot of money for this car." And then I said, "Well, hold on a minute. Why don't we just get it inspected? Why don't we just assess it? Is it really the car we think it is? Has it really got its matching on it? Was it really that lovely colour you think it is? Has it got all of those sort of attributes to it?" And he went, "Okay, well, let's." He was kicking and screaming and saying, "I know best," because, this person in particular is very, very good at making deals and a very successful business person. But anyway, the long and the short of it was, the car was inspected, and it was not the car he thought it was at all. It didn't have the fancy brakes on, and in fact the chassis had been re-stamped previously in its life, and the person inspected had seen it early in its life and said, hold your horses.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Yeah, that's invaluable. But I think from my experience of dealing with you, is you're not here to.
One sec. Sorry, I'm going to interrupt. For Schumacher's X F355 and a new record.
No, what I was going to say there before we drink is you're not there to kill a deal. You're there to make the deals happen. And sometimes we have guys in deals that are there to try and kill a deal or sell another car. You're not there to do that at all.
No, I do not. No, I'm an independent person, and if there's a good deal to be had, if the car is great, if it is what we think it is, crack on. That is absolutely fantastic. That's what I want to happen.
But I want to make sure into the deal.
Yeah, I want to make sure that the right car is purchased for the client as an independent person, because at IQEQ we're just paid by the hour. It's similar to a lawyer. We provide our
like counsel basically.
Yeah, exactly. It's like counsel, but I get but a good connections with the insurance companies, good connection with to get the cars inspected. Good relationships clearly with the dealers. I don't have any enemies in the industry. Quite the opposite. Yeah. And I'll try and make sure that people get what they're wanting and what they're aspiring for.
Yeah. And one other thing that you're also up to in the Channel Islands is you've got a way, haven't you, of helping people own business in a structure in the Channel Islands that can be helpful.
That's right, Harvey. So in the Channel Islands, where we are in Jersey, so I'm based in Jersey, but in Jersey we have a 5% VAT equivalent. In Guernsey, our sister island has a 0. So we've had quite a lot of success with T50s, Valkyries, Project Ones, whereby the cars are owned by a Guernsey company, and as I mentioned earlier, we are a fiduciary company. That's our job. So we own the structure we run the structure for the cars. The cars are kept physically kept in the island, but it can be used for up to 6 months of the year elsewhere. The rule of thumb is, for tax advice, which is achieved, is that you can't use it in your home jurisdiction. But it works really, really well. I've got Australian clients, US clients, Swiss clients, Middle Eastern clients, obviously.
Yeah.
And it works really, really well with the sort of Valkyrie price cars, Project One price cars. It works really, really well. The cars are physically kept there as a dedicated storage facility, but we are able to hold their hand with that asset and it's basically having car in bond, but you can use it at the same time.
Yeah, that's awesome. So if somebody wants to understand a little bit more about whether that can or cannot benefit them, I guess get in touch with you via the IQEQ website.
Via the IQEQ website, yeah. So IQEQ, with 5,500 people globally, but as I said, we've got a very small luxury asset department. So we've got fine art, we've got super yachts and aviation, and cars. And because I've brought up with cars and I love cars, like we all do.
Yeah.
It's a dream job for me.
Brilliant. Now I want to talk a little bit about our up-and-coming sealed offering, which closes on the 20th of February, a week before the Zonda, and that's this stunning Singer DLS commission behind us here. Now they've made 450 of the Singer Classics. They only made 75 of the DLSs. DLS stands for Dynamic and Lightweight Study. So it's the rawest and most fantastic air-cooled Porsche that the boffins at Singer thought they could make. And they did that with the help of Williams Advanced Engineering, who built this fantastic engine and power plant that sits at the back of the car. Unlike the 450 Singer Classics that are built in LA and at their Torrance facility, the DLSs were actually built at Daventry, so they could be closer to Williams, they could be closer to the F1 factory. And this particular car, the Oppenheimer, is of those 75, in my opinion, probably the most striking. Now it's called the Oppenheimer, not after the movie, but after the Oppenheimer Blue, which is the most valuable coloured diamond ever sold at auction at $110 million.
It's funny, it's almost the same colour. Almost the same colour as the Le Mans Blue on the 355.
Yeah, it's a little lighter.
It is.
They're fully carbon bodied, and if you look around the car, and if you get the chance before you go off for dinner or wherever you're headed, try and have a closer look at it, because some of the details are amazing. The Porsche script on the door is actually tinted blue carbon that sits beneath the paint. So they painted the door, but they've left the Porsche unpainted as treated blue carbon. It's the same on the rear deck lid, it's the same on the lower sill. And if you picture that trim line that goes around a 2.7 RS, that little black stripe, again, you can only just notice it, but that's actually exposed carbon. Open up the door cards are blue carbon, the steering wheel is trimmed in blue Alcantara with an inner blue carbon, the gear knob's the same.
The attention to detail on that thing is insane, outrageous.
Yeah,
great.
Nobody does attention to detail like Singer, and I've been lucky enough to spend quite a bit of time at the factory, and what they're doing there is really super exciting.
The seats as well, and the way they're trimmed, it's quite exquisite, really.
Yeah,
it's a stunning car.
Not only has Singer got a good attention to detail, but I can tell you that the vendor, the current owner, and the first owner, who's driven a grand total of 100 kilometres in the car, is a real sticker to attention for detail.
Yeah.
So if you thought they were good, this guy pushed them. The rear taillights on this car are clear. They don't have the usual red and orange. $18,000 option from Singer, specially made for this car. And it's the only Singer that not only has it been PPF'd, and you won't believe me it's PPF, by the way, because the fit is so good you won't be able to find a single joint. It's also PPF'd underneath.
Wow.
Something Singer haven't done before, but if you were worried about stone chips on the underside of your car,
In the undersails,
worry no more.
in the wheel arches and things like that.
And the underfloor.
Wow.
Something never done before. Yeah.
Wow.
That's astonishing.
That's attention to detail again by the owner. But then
That is
there's
astonishing.
So as George Orwell said, we're all created equal, but some more equal than others.
not wrong there.
Any Singer DLS is a great car, but this one might just be the very best of all of those. Anders, James, I've enjoyed our sealed live experience this evening. We've had a hell of a crowd. Maybe it's the Zonda, maybe it's us.
Yeah,
but
it's us.
Definitely us. Definitely.
I've enjoyed that. There seems to be the best part of a bottle of champagne left to drink. So I'm going to leave you there, and thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us, and see you for the next Sealed Live.
Thank you.
Thank you.
list. This is without